G'day guys, hello and welcome everybody. My name's Beckett and you're with Adelaide Eternal, and I've got a very special guest here today. Dan, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so Dan Abraham. So I play a bit of 7-point Highlander, but I'm also a bit of a fan of vintage. So Beckett's invited me along to commentate his run in the Eternal weekend from the weekend.
That's right, and I played in the second last event for the library, and it could have been overshadowed by the one the day after, but it was the largest online ever vintage event. We had 391 players, and I won't tell you the score because I don't want to spoil the matches, but I did well. I had a positive result, and I did have a chance at 1 point to top 8. So I had a positive score, and I'm playing Oath. I was the only Oath player I actually saw there, but I just want to shout out that I think it's a great opportunity for vintage players to get a bit of love, which we don't always get, and it brought me out of the woodwork. I haven't played vintage in a while, and I just had such a great time. And I've been chatting with some other players, and everyone's really buzzing about the event. So it's just a great thing. I'm really happy about it.
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't seen a lot of vintage recently either. So I know I logged in and watched there was a couple of people streaming, and I watched a bit of it over the weekend. And I was surprised to see your name. I think we were both watching the same video at one point in time once you dipped out. And it was sort of good to see that there was some other people from Australia watching the tournament and playing in it. I thought your list was really interesting. I was having a look at that sort of in preparation for commentating the matches tonight. I was hoping you might sort of take us through, some of what you've included. I think like a lot of your deck is sort of, your conventional kind of Oath components, like an Oko Oath build, but there are some sort of interesting inclusions in there, like, balance and Memory's Journey and things like that. I reckon it might be useful just to hear some of your thinking about some of the more like eclectic choices in your list. If you want to talk about them briefly.
I got the list originally ages ago. I was watching, I think in the days of Delver Treasure Cruise, and an Oath deck made the finals despite Delver being pretty dominant in that meta at the time. And I just loved the raw power of it. All these other decks were, trying to play counter spells and mana drains and all these other things, and it just wanted to do one thing and one thing only. And it just felt like as busted as, the perfect storm, or as there was no paradoxical outcome, but as busted as the most busted decks. And I just wanted to do that. I was like, well, that's why I'm playing vintage. I don't want to play mid-range. I don't want to play control. I play a lot of interactive Magic in my other formats. I want to play vintage and I want to play busted. Sarv suggested the balance a long time ago because you got 4 Forbidden Orchards, so you're able to get away with the white. And for so long, I was hesitant to play red for Underworld Breach, and then I was like, well, it's the same logic. I'm splashing 1 white card.
Yeah.
And I usually only want to balance when I've given them a bunch of 1/1s, and it's pretty easy to cast. I mean, really, you could play all 5 colors with this list.
I think, are you playing all 5 colors? I think you are. So you've got an Underworld Breach. You've got a balance. And then you're primarily blue-green.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just 1 balance and one breach.
Yeah, and then Demonic Tutor and Vampiric Tutor.
It's really an issue.
In your black. Yeah. I mean, I think... sorry, go on.
I was going to say, I've got 4 Orchards, 2 Confluence, Lotus, Black Lotus, Lotus Petal, and then the Moxin in that color. So there's plenty of mana sources to get you there.
Yeah. Your mana confluences are interesting as well. I thought the other interesting thing is like that you use Runescarred Demon over Grizzlebrand as your targets for Oath. So like instead of getting sort of mass card advantage, you've gone for basically a deck full of demonic tutors. And so I was wanting to just sort of, if you could take us through what your common targets for your Runescarred Demon are, because I know we've talked in the past in the context of Australian Highlander that sometimes the challenge is in when you're playing reanimator type decks is chaining your dudes together or chaining spells. I was wondering, like, if you're playing like that many demonic tutors, you must have particular targets in mind.
Well, absolutely. I mean, with the deck is designed that once it triggers the Oath, you can't lose. It doesn't always happen like that because of the random nature of what's milled and therefore what you can tutor for. But obviously in Vintage, any demonic tutor, the cards are so powerful that any demonic tutor is more powerful than it is in, say, Highlander or Modern. Not like demonic tutors are cards too broken for Modern, but it's even more broken in Vintage because the cards you can choose are better. But yeah, I mean, the deck is designed to go Runescar Demon finds Time Walk, and then you Time Walk, and then you trigger it again, and then that Runescar Demon finds Regrowth, and then you Regrowth Time Walk, and then the third one finds Yawgmoth's Will, and then Time Walks again. By that time,
and you go
won.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's enough attacks to do the lethal damage. Yeah,
that's right.
Cool.
But there's other. I mean, it gets very complicated because you might not have 4 mana to do Regrowth Time Walk, so you could get Noxious Revival, and instead Noxious Revival and skip your draw step, but you draw the Time Walk for turn, and that only costs you 2. But I mean, it changes depending on what's milled. But you still, I mean, I'm sort of making this number up out of nothing, but you're still like, I'd say 95% to find at least one Time Walk, maybe 80% to chain them, and 70% that if you can't chain it, you're going to win anyway because you got a Demonic Tutor. So, you know, it's like pretty hard to lose once you trigger the Oath.
Yeah, very good. And I'd say and you know, the rest of the deck is kind of, you know, your usual blue cantrips. So 4 Preordain a Ponder, Gitaxian Probe, 4 Force of Will. So you're a pitch counter deck. So, you know, you can play a control role if you need to. So yeah, I thought the list looked really cool.
Yeah, I mean, we can get into the games. Oko is another really big addition, but I can talk to Oko later. Should we get into the games and we can sort of...
Yeah, let's do it.
We can go
we'll talk about your list as we go. Yeah.
Beauty. So round 1, I think I played against Dredge Vengevine, which is... It's not that new, but I guess, you know, Vintage being what it is a sort of slow developing format. So... there's, you know, it's relatively new for Vintage, and it's fascinating that it's overshadowed a lot of the traditional Dredge lists. I think just because Vengevine's got haste.
Well, if it's some of the stuff that I've been like having a look at, I think the really interesting thing is that the Vengevine lists are no longer playing Survival of the Fittest.
Yeah,
I think it's like the presence of Once Upon a Time means your chances of finding Bizarro Baghdad are so high that, like, what's the point of playing a 2-mana enchantment when you can just go off on the first turn? Yeah, so let's see how it goes.
All right. So my opener looks pretty good here. It's a turn 1 Oath. No
turn 1 Oath
Orchard.
seems all right to me. Yeah.
I mean, I love turn 1 Oath with the backup as well because I'm happy to play it out proactively and then just prevent my opponent from playing a creature. I don't know what I'm against here. I mean, the jig's pretty much up now that I've seen the Bazaar, though.
Yeah, well, it's either going to be survival or it's going to be like a pure Dredge list. So I guess we'll see what they stick in the bin.
The pure Dredge lists are so fascinating. They're playing mainboard Force of Negations and mainboard Force of Vigors now. It's scary. You know, they can interact with you.
Yeah. All right, so what have we got in the bin there? So there's a couple of Hogaks, I think, and a Bloodghast.
Yeah.
Okay. So it looks like, it's the aggro Bazaar list.
And I think this...
So you've got to be happy with your Oath here. Yeah.
Yeah, big time. I mean, sometimes you just get free wins, but there's not many decks that can actually win without creatures. Paradoxical Outcome, Doomsday, and so the Jeskai control deck, some of them don't run anything other than Mentor. But even then, it can take them so long just to find the Mentor and to feel confident that they can kill you without triggering your Oath. That just having an Oath with no Orchard, I find, is always really powerful as a sort of preventative spell that says you can't play creatures until you've sorted this out or until you can lethal me in one swing.
Yeah, I think I haven't checked sort of many of the Bazaar lists, but a deck with a bunch of Hogaks, there's a chance you might see a main deck Force of Vigor.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah,
we'll see.
Well, I think one of the guys that made top 8 was playing this Vengevine list, and he had Progenitors in his sideboard, right?
Oh.
And everyone was like, "What's Progenitors doing in the sideboard?" And it's just because it pitches to Contagion. You need a black card. Force of Vigor, which requires a green, and Force of Negation, which requires a blue. And he's it pitches to everything. And if you don't need it, you can Bazaar it away pretty easily.
Yeah. Okay. So so is the Contagion there to like hit like Containment Priest and sort of targets like that for this list?
I guess so.
Because that's a really old school card.
It is,
like,
isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't think most lists are running Contagion. But I mean, the guy top 8'd, so Winged Hussar is his handle. because I was watching Justin's stream on the top 8 as well, and he because like it's 50 minutes per round, and if you're playing a deck in Vintage, you might win in sort of the first 8 minutes or something.
Yeah.
Then you're sitting around, so it's a long day. I mean, I woke up started at 7:30 a.m. for me, and I was sort of wrapping up around 7 p.m. It was like a long day.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we've seen the end of turn.
Yeah, I think it started off a bit
slow. Hasn't got to his attack step yet. Yeah.
No, it starts off a bit slow because I think it's round 1 and everyone's finding their feet and there's a lot of nerves. I mean, I know I was nervous throughout the day, but especially round 1, like getting a groove. But you get a bit of a groove as you go into it. And fair enough, they've just gone Cabal. I think they shouldn't have triggered their Bloodghast because they could have Cabaled, sacrificed the Hollow one, and then my Oath won't trigger.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, true. All right, so you get your trigger on your Oath here. So we'll see a Runescar Demon.
I could go into a lot of depth about the lines that you could pick depending on what's milled. But basically what I'm looking for is Time Walk milled and is Memory's Journey milled. And you can see here Memory's Journey is milled, but Time Walk isn't. So it's pretty simple. I get the Time Walk.
So get your Time Walk, and you can play your land and resolve Time Walk.
Yeah, although I can't then trigger it again until my opponent plays a creature.
Yeah.
But my opponent's in a bit of a weird spot where they've lost the board because the 6/6 flyer trumps the 4/4. But okay, so Force of Vigor. So they had to do it in my turn, right?
Yep. So what do they pitch to it?
Probably Hogak or something like that. I mean, it's scary. They could.
I mean, is there any temptation to find another Oath? I guess it is fun. Fun Time Walk. Because their deck is built around flooding the board. Let's see what you fetch. I thought I'd be tempted to find Oath.
Oh, Underworld Breach here is pretty good. Yeah.
So have you got Lotus or something have you got something in the bin?
No, unfortunately the Lotus is not. And it can get really tricky without the Lotus because Lotus is just the simplest. But I've got Moxen. So I could go Underworld Breach, play Mox, play Oath. It's tough because you actually sort of exile 4 cards if you think about it every time you cast one. Because let's say if you want to Abrupt Decay with the Underworld Breach out, then you're exiling 3 cards, but the Abrupt Decay goes back into the graveyard. It doesn't exile. So you only have to remove 3 cards. But if you want to cast a permanent like a Mox, then you're getting rid of 4 cards. So it's like quite difficult to do the maths with the Breach. And it's a really new addition to my deck. So I'm not like super comfortable using it. But for the most part, I rush my turn. So I just wanted to take my time here and do the maths and work out what I can actually do with 24 cards in the bin and Underworld Breach.
Yeah, okay, so you've gone for Underworld Breach. So you're generating red. So yeah, you're going to go the Underworld Breach. You must have a pretty decent sized graveyard here. Yep. Yeah, marks. Get rid of the lands.
It can be really tricky to know what to pitch. Lands is an easy one, but like Balance is quite good against a lot of the Vengevine decks because they don't have Bridge from Below. So balancing them can be pretty brutal.
Yeah, okay. So dig through time.
I guess this is slightly better than just playing an Oath because I get 2 Moxen on top of it.
Yeah. No, I thought it's a good line. Pump up your mana a bit.
Yeah, well, you can use the mana in this deck when you consider that you want to like 4 mana is sort of the magic number.
Okay.
Because that's
so what does that give you access to?
Regrowth Time Walk, as well as if you find Black Lotus, you can hard cast another Runescar Demon in your hand.
Yeah, okay.
So like you can trigger a Runescar Demon, and have the last one in your hand, and you can tutor for Black Lotus and then hard cast the final one.
Right.
So you
Yeah,
probably
that's really
don't
cool.
ever really need more than 4.
You're thinking about another one?
I think I was thinking about a value cruise. Yeah, I'm trying to work out if I've got enough to Lotus Petal, Exile 3, and then Treasure Cruise.
No, you got to delve. Yeah, you got to take 7.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got to deal, well, 10,
That's a
11,
lot of
12.
math. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to deal 13 cards for that to work. And there's 12 in the bin, but one of them's the cruise itself. So I think I'm 1 delve off. Because the petal will go back in the bin that I could delve, but I'd be 1 off.
Yeah,
And of course, I want to keep Memory's Journey in there if I can. It's like,
yeah,
it can seem...
That's an interesting inclusion in your list, I've got to say, the Memory's Journey. Like, I get it. Like, so you get, yeah. Like you get, because it comes off the oath, and you get some value out of it because it's in the, so use some utility out of it because it's in the graveyard.
Well, it's really good versus Dredge, actually. Because you can you can shuffle your opponent's cards into their library.
Yeah, so you just like pick the dredger and get them to like shuffle it back in.
Yeah, it's pretty relevant if they've got exactly less than 3 dredges, less than 4 dredges. You can sort of stifle a turn of theirs.
Yeah, it's innovative. I hadn't seen Memory's Journey in the main of Adventures before. But you found it to be good?
Oh, big time. And it also means you can sometimes... I used to run it a lot more... Well, I used to use it a lot more where I'd purposefully mill my entire deck, and then Memory's Journey, the 3 cards that I want left, like Memory's Journey, the Time Walk, the Noxious Revival, and a Yawgmoth's Will. Or like a Sensei's Divining top, a Time Walk, and a Noxious Revival. And then no matter sort of like what I draw, I can often, if I draw the Noxious Revival, I can, draw Preordain or something, and then always Time Walk. But you need it because sometimes the last card you mill is a Rinse Guard Demon.
Yeah, okay.
So you need it to live. But it's also
so
helps.
You don't have like Gaia's Blessing or anything like that in your deck. You just use Memory's Journey to stop yourself from milling yourself the deck. Yeah.
Well, Blessing ruins all those goodies in your graveyard, which you've got.
Yeah.
You want to use. Like I'm using Yawgmoth's Will. I mean, Yawgmoth's Will is like a really good card. As is Treasure Cruise and stuff, and I want to be able to use that, not shuffle it back in.
Yeah. I remember like so when I was playing Reanimator and Highlander, like the biggest dilemma was like how to win without like milling yourself out, and in the end I just resolved on playing an Eldrazi, just whatever, it lands in the bin, I'll just shuffle it back in,
It
give
feels
myself an
yicky to
ability
me. It feels so yicky to me.
I know it does. I didn't love it, but yeah, particularly because I think I was playing Jinkataxius.
Jinkataxius.
A voracious appetite for cards, right? Yeah, it's really awesome card, but it's you're flirting with danger playing with it. Yeah.
So I've elected to brainstorm to get rid of the Rinse Guard in my hand.
The 2 demons. Yeah, that's good.
And I get to keep Memory's Journey in there. So I think that's a decent turn. I didn't get to...
Yeah, it's looking good.
I didn't get to Time Walk, but I'm pretty set up.
Yeah. I mean, like against your opponent who's looking to like flood the board with creatures, you've got to be feeling pretty good. Like that would feel constrained in their ability to play creatures. You're dominating the board. Like you've got a bigger dude. So yeah. So what are they're trying to attack into your thing, so then they get the trigger oath or something on their next turn.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty good.
Or just like stop you from triggering it.
It's good for them because they could flip 10 cards into their graveyard and find a Hogak. So I guess if you're behind, it's probably worth taking a risky play like that.
Yeah, and you're on 11, so if they find a Hogak, they've got lethal on board. Yeah, so let's see what they choose to do. All right, over to your turn. your regrowth your brainstorm.
Got to find show and tell. So now I'm like, oh, do I want to pitch the other RuneScar demon, or do I want to keep it? Because there's only 3 in the deck, so if you've got them in your hand, it can be a bit awkward. That's one of the problems with this deck. It can be a little bit awkward as far as actually having the power on the board to win the game.
So you don't have the mana. You got a fetch land? Yeah. So then you show and tell. They don't have the mana to cast Time Walk. So you're going to give them an Oath trigger. You preordain.
Yeah, I think I don't really want to give them an Oath. Because if I RuneScud, I don't have the mana. I didn't have the mana to RuneScud and Time Walk there.
Yeah, I think it's interesting.
I think I was considering keeping up green there for Memory's Journey as a bit of a safer play instead of preordaining. And I find the RuneScud
again. Ouch.
So now, even if I trigger Oath, I won't be able to. I won't be able to find a demon.
Yeah. So you kind of priced into show and tell. Time Walk.
Well, the show and tell's not that powerful. I mean, it's surprisingly. I mean, it's a powerful card, right? Like you see it in Legacy Sneak and Show decks, and everyone knows it's it can be crazy. You can play 3-minute Emrakul. I found it to be not that it's probably slightly underpowered for Vintage, but really what it does more than it gives me free wins, it just makes my awkward hand slightly better. If I've got RuneScud in hand and I have a DT, I can DT for show and tell, and at least now my hand is like doing something. So that's really what the show and tell's for. And I think I swung there. It's a bit risky, but I was like, well, if I'm not blocking and I'm not swinging, then what's my 6/6 flyer actually doing in my deck? I really hate having not I guess milking what I can out of my creatures. So it's a bit risky, but I stayed on 5. So even with a Vengevine, I'm okay there. The opponent would have to have 2 Vengevines to win there through a Force of Will. Well, I guess
that's right. You've got some protection. Yeah. So they could resolve 1. It's half. Yeah, but they resolve 2. Unlikely.
I think I'd probably win if I untap.
I think you're right. I think so. You've got Force of Will back up. You show and tell a RuneScud, get Time Walk, attack once, and then swing in for lethal.
Yeah.
Because that'll give you what? That should give you enough damage. Oko, you probably don't need that now.
Oko's there. I mean, Oko's just done wonders for this deck because, as I said, the deck was designed to do one thing and one thing only. And I found I really often wanted an Abrupt Decay to get rid of a Graph Digger's Cage or Containment Priest, but it just didn't seem powerful enough, and I didn't see it enough. And I wanted a Planeswalker to generate value, but the Planeswalkers kept dying to the Orchard tokens. I wanted something cute like Swan Song to give my opponent's creatures to trigger the Oath, and Oko just does all of those things in one.
That's right. Yeah, you just turn their Moxen into 3/3s.
That's right.
And you trigger Oath. Yeah,
exactly.
It's beautiful.
I mean, it's and as cute as it is, it's also just really powerful. When you can hit their own Graph Digger's Cage and turn their Graph Digger's Cage into the creature you so desperately needed. It feels pretty good.
Yeah, that is good. It's amazing. I think it's a really, really great deck for Oath of Druids. A great card for Oath of Druids. I loved it. There was a moment there in Australian Highlander when it was no points, and I played it in Reanimator, and it was so good. Just like hitting Graph Digger's Cages and Scavenging Oozes and Deathrite.
Well, it doesn't sound like it should be good in that deck, does it?
Yeah, but it's just so good at dealing with all the hate.
Yeah, it's a very general card. It's just generally good, and that's what a lot of the combo decks lack. This deck has 0 board presence until it triggers the combo. So, to
Right, so,
have something so impactful on the board, like an Oko, it just does the exact opposite of everything else the deck is doing, which I think gives it a lot of value.
Yeah, so you're taking a few Okos out here post board, and you've removed your Force of Wills, which makes sense because you really want those for like the combo rather than the aggro decks. But you put your 4 Leyline of the Void into the deck, which makes sense. So to cut off the graveyard. So the other ones that you've removed the Okos. So what's the thinking behind that?
Vengevine is pretty good versus it, as is Hogak. I think Oko is best at beating the Tarmogoyf, Leovold, Thalia sort of decks that have some sort of competition on the board, but not something crazy explosive like Dredge, which can just put 16 power on the board on turn 1. I mean, even Oko can't sort of compete with that. So rather than competing with that, I'm just going to go my combo and my sideboard plan. I want Oko for matchups where like they've got a bit of pressure on the board, but it's not over the top. It's more like a protected queen strategy. I always
kind of
want to keep
it's like your Jeskai Xerox kind of decks with like Dreadhorde Arcanist and Young Pyromancer, that kind of thing in those matches. But you don't want to see it here, like where there's a lot of creatures on the board. You don't really want to see it against Oracle Doomsday or anything like that. So you've already brought it out there.
Yeah, I do change how I sideboard a little bit throughout the day, but basically, I kept 1 Force of Will in because there's still Force of Vigors. There's still things you can force, but just generally, like it's not a great card when they can win without casting any spells.
This is a bit of a patchy hand. It's fine.
It's not great, but it's got Orchard and it's got mana and it's got 2 cantrips. And balance is really good against these decks. Surprisingly good. They can recover, but still, it's surprisingly decent to be able to board wipe and go, okay, now I just needed 1 more turn, and the board wipe gave me that.
That was interesting. They brought in Deafening Silence against you.
I know, right? It's so weird.
Do you think that's right? That doesn't seem right. You're not Storm or anything like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't have any creatures. I don't have any creatures that I want to cast. So everything I cast is a non-creature spell. I found it weird as well. I found it really weird.
Yeah, not a great Brainstorm.
Yeah, I mean, Brainstorm
tempted at all to like pedal into Preordain.
Yeah, right. Pedal. I mean, it could be a great hand, but Clarigon's doing a lot. Deafening Silence. Yeah, that's what it's called, right?
Yep, Deafening Silence. So you can't play more than 1 non-creature spell per turn.
But it's each player.
Yeah, that's right. It's not a it's not a one-sided effect. It's just interesting they brought it in this matchup.
I think it does make sense, but you can see they're not doing their own game plan. They are stifling my game plan, but they're not progressing their game plan. So as brutal as this feels, I'm hitting my land drops. It's that they haven't yet capitalized on anything that the spell is doing.
Yeah, if I'm you here, I'm feeling fine. I don't mind seeing Wastelands if the opponent hasn't got pressure on board.
Yeah.
We're both just gaining and losing lands at the same rate as each other.
That's right.
Yeah.
There's always
you're like completely mana screwed.
I mean, there's a chance in Vintage you just like, I mean, especially if you got 3 Wastelands, but there's a good chance they just kept a 2-land hand and aren't going to find the 3rd land, and you can just win a free game.
Yeah. I attempted the Noxious Revival here and put the Atropine.
Noxious Revival has been so good because I see it as a combo piece that I would have assumed was dead in hand, but being able to flashback an Oath of Druids, and it costs a card in your hand because you skip your draw step, but you get to just sort of keep, it's like you Oath and then your opponent forces and you just Oath again, and then they force that one, and then you Noxious Revival Oath, and it can be overwhelming pressure, even if it's not. Even if it doesn't generate your card advantage.
Yeah. For a while there, when I was playing Grixis Oracle and Highlander, I had Noxious Revival in my main, just to stick, because I had Ancestral Recall in that list as well, so I just stick the Ancestral back on the top. And
Mystical Tutor, right? People would Mystical Tutor.
Yeah.
Oh man, is that 3 Wastelands in a strip?
Yeah, looks like it.
I got a bit lucky that I hit so many land drops, although I did Noxious Revival
Yeah.
one of them.
Yeah, so Waterlog Grove. You got enough in the bin for cruise yet? Must be getting pretty deep. Yeah, you're checking. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep. This will get you back out of it.
And it serves them
So
right.
Waterlog Grove as well.
Yeah, that's a very recent addition, and I'm very, very happy with it. I just, because I've got Okos and Oaths, the Black Splash is pretty minimal. It's Imperial Seal, Vamp Tutor, DT, and then I guess like Toxic Deluge in the sideboards. There's only 4 cards really. Maybe a hard cast Runescar Demon or Leyline. But it's mainly blue-green deck, and I just wanted basically 5 tropical islands. Because you don't really want fetches, because if you mill all your fetchable lands and then your hand is full of fetches, you can't fetch, because often you mill your entire deck. So you don't, I've got 1 Misty, you don't really want too many fetches in the list. But I was really happy with the Waterlogged Grove. Drawing the card was really relevant. The color was really relevant. Being untapped and tapping on the colors I want is really relevant. Ideally, I'd probably just play a 5th trop, but yeah, I really liked it.
But you can't, So were you tempted here to time walk, or you're going to just hold up the pitch counter? Yeah. See what you do. Well, now you've untapped. I think you're just going to jam Leyline of the Void, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I can't do anything now, but because there's 1 spell a turn.
Oh, yeah. So they got, so your opponent's got a couple of Bloodghasts in the bin. You got a Ravenous Trap though, that's good. And you got a Deluge, yeah. So you got to feel reasonably secure here, and you've got a balance. So you're only on 1 land too. That would be pretty fun.
It's fascinating to see such a slow game.
I'm just surprised that no one's won on turn 3.
We're on turn 7.
Yeah, that's good. It's like a slog. Yeah. You've done pretty well to fight through all that land hate.
Yeah, I think I want to Leyline of the Void.
Yeah, that's what I'll be doing here.
Rather than just time walk into nothing.
Yeah. Because it doesn't do much. If you got pressure, then it's awesome. It's similar to like Wasteland,
Yeah, absolutely.
They're both tempo players, those are at their best when you've got pressure. You got a land. Yeah, I'm not too worried about Bloodghasts yet. I'd be going for Leyline of the Void and see what you do.
I'm also tempted to Rav Trap, which is so strong here because I can do it in their turn, so it gets around the deafening silence. But they don't have any real dredges or anything scary in their bin at the moment.
Yeah, that's right. All the threats
real.
Are coming, so yeah. So you're just like, but you've got balance and you've got Deluge. You can like nick both those Bloodghasts.
I've got all the tools I need. It's just like arduously slow because of the deafening silence, and it's like I feel like I've got everything I need to win the game, but they're gonna get 2. Oh, they'll get 1 swing in here. I can Deluge next turn. Yeah, I mean I could Deluge. I can't Deluge in time walk, but yeah, Deluge next turn seems pretty good.
Yeah, Deluge I think Deluge is probably better than balance, while you're kind of reasonably even on mana sources and cards in hand. So if you started if you wiped out your whole board, DT.
Well, I think balance is just good in the list because there's so many tutor. I've got Imperial Seal, DT, Vamp Tutor, and then of course the 3 demons. And because it's just such a powerful card, it's one of those examples of Demonic Tutor is better in Vintage than it is anywhere else. It can just win a game by itself for you. So I think it's worth splashing the color. Absolutely. I've always had balance and always loved it, especially when you have like a really Mox heavy hand, and then you play Oko balance and make your own 3/3, and then you can just start winning. The way.
The thing I like about balance is the way it makes a deck. Like what is unusual about it and cool, I think, is the way it makes a deck kind of breathe in and out. So the way you design it, you want to have like artifact based mana, and you want like things like Ren and 6 are really good with balance. So like where you want to see your mana base contract and then expand. And like cards like Ancestral Recall are really good, where you want to like deplete your hand and then blow it back out again.
It's fascinating. So you're
There's a lot of cards like that.
Decks that are able to use both a high mana curve and a low mana curve.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and decks. So like Gush is really good with balance. Like as well, things that for low mana kind of allow you to boost yourself, or where I don't know. It's like most control decks will want to like just keep hitting lands and land and lands and lands. Like a balanced deck is a different thing. Like has to be like quite a low curve kind of control deck. And so it needs tools to like just strip itself and then rebuild itself. And so that requires a particular kind of design thinking, I think. It's just a cool card. There's not many other cards like that.
Yeah, it is fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a really unique card in that sense. And it's another perfect example. What I love about old school cards where they're fair, but they're not fair. They're not fair if you leverage them correctly, but everything on it reads that it's fair. Tanglewire is a perfect example of that as well. Or Ensnaring Bridge or Smokestack. I just love playing. I actually don't play with any of those cards, but I love playing against those cards. And you see a lot of new players that don't leverage them correctly and can't understand why they're good. But then when you've lost to a Tanglewire and you just think, I don't understand, this is hurting us both. Winter Orb's a perfect example of that card. It can just feel so dominant in a match. But at the end of the day, it's happening to both players. So if you just design your deck and play it at the right time, it can be dominant. But you need to do that. And it introduces a lot of skill into the game and into the design of the deck, which I think creates for a lot of ingenuity.
Yeah. The skill intensity of these cards is what makes them really fun as well. So your opponent's Cabal therapying here.
We sort of stopped talking about the games anyway. I forced pitching Time Warp on that Collector Oof.
Yeah,
which was
you got plenty of like artifact based mana, so that makes sense. And you got a Mox Sapphire in hand. Yeah. So I wonder, like, do they know what's in your hand? I haven't seen a Gitaxian Probe or anything like that. So it's a blind therapy.
But I did Demonic Tutor. They named Oko Thief of Crowns.
Or picked the wrong one.
Yeah. Do they know I'm on Oath, right? Because I beat them with Oath on game one. Sometimes you don't even show them the Oath of Druids because you win with Oko, and then they don't board against you correctly. Yeah, I think Oath was the name there.
It's not the ley line.
But I was very tempted to let the Oof result, obviously, because it triggers my Oath. But I'm on such a small life total. It'd be a bit awkward if they're able to sort of Vengevine and then because they've got the mana to go land drop Vengevine.
But if they've got Force of Vigors, like it's pretty risky. They can play that on your turn, so you get around Deafening Silence.
Time.
And so Collective is going to shut off all your mana and then kill your Oath, and you'll be in trouble.
Yeah, I think that's
you're right to force that.
I think that's what I'm playing around. I'm playing around the Force of Vigor. Because normally I'd just jam an Oath, but I'm very scared of Force of Vigor. But happy to get my 2 ley lines forced because I can survive the next turn because of the Ravenous Trap, and then I get to untap Oath. So I could let like a Root Waller resolve, Ravenous Trap anything really scary like a Vengevine, and then untap an Oath.
All right, so we've got a Bizarre activation.
I mean, that's the other thing. My opponent wasn't really bizarring, I think. I could be wrong. But my opponent wasn't really bizarring, which implies that they've got the Force of Vigor because surely they would want to manipulate their hand until it's good.
Yeah. No, yeah. Like with ley lines, like in play, they can't really activate it, right? Start going down on cards.
Although they've got 7, I mean, they've got to discard 3 down to 4. But they've got...
I mean, like they've taken their time. They've been rebuilding their hand because there's not a lot on the board at the moment. So everyone can be patient. Like, you don't need to jam Oath in the last turn because there's no dudes on board.
Yeah, but I'm very scared of land drop Vengevine.
Yeah.
Because it would force me to balance.
Yeah, just the hard cast Vengevine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're on 7.
Yeah, the deafening silence has actually been pretty strong.
Yeah, it's definitely slowed the game down a lot.
Because I think I would have let the oof resolve, and then I can just go oath time walk, and that wins the game.
Yeah.
Oh, they've got 4 mana
got
here.
Yeah, and they've got Vengevine in the bin, so like they preceded the ley lines. So yeah, tapping out. So this looks like Vengevine. Oh, Chalice of the Void.
I forgot the start of that match.
I was not expecting that. I was not expecting that at all. So, well, that shuts off balance and Oath of Druid.
Yeah.
And then a hollow one.
Rip Oko.
And you draw Oko.
The 10 after the Kabbalah.
So you're like, play Oko, make an elk.
I think so.
So you keep
I can elk the Chalice next turn if I'm desperate to play an Oath. I think I just
You're on
want to
6.
keep up a blocker, yeah.
Yeah, I'll be making a blocker just in case. Because they've got hasty dudes. Yeah, you don't want to get attacked around.
But it's really, I mean, the deck's quite resilient for when you consider a dredge deck as almost a combo deck. You'd assume it's quite fragile, and that once you drop the ley line, you win. And these new Vengevine decks are able to play hollow ones and hard cast, and I mean, these are interactive cards. Chalice and Clarion, Silence, sorry.
Yeah.
And they play Force of Negation and Vigor. I mean, they're very interactive.
Yeah. Yeah. They're holding up quite well in the. It's good that they're able to hard cast some of their threats. All right, so you've made a food token.
I think my logic is that 3/3 doesn't block the hollow one very well, and if they're able to Vengevine, I can gain 3 life, go to 9 anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
And survive.
So what's your plan? What do you reckon your plan? What's your plan for the next turn? Is it to hit the Chalice? That'll enable you to cast Balance or something like that.
Yeah, probably hit Chalice.
And that wipes out the Chalice and the hollow one if you do that. Yeah. So you're gonna go down to 2.
He's hit Oko.
Oh, has he? Okay. Yeah, like at least with your Runescar Demons, they're like easier to hardcast if you need to as well than Grizzlebrand is sometimes.
Yeah, I definitely do it, especially if you draw a Black Lotus. You can hardcast a Runescar Demon. And I think, I mean, look at this match. I've only got 6 life, so there's plenty of times where you can't pay the 7 life anyway once you trigger. So many times I just want to trigger Oath no matter what, and I'm happy to even go down to 1. And then trigger Oath, and then I can sort of, breathe a sigh of relief, and you can't necessarily do that with Grizzlebrand. I used to actually have 1 Grizzlebrand, 2 Runescar Demon, but it just got really headachy with, so if I flip Grizzlebrand this way wins, but if I flip Runescar this way doesn't, or vice versa.
Yeah, okay.
And I just wanted to have the consistency. And it also plays around Caracas very well, and a lot of people still board in Caracas versus me because there's assuming I've got an Emrakul or something like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, non-legends is good.
So I'm getting a bit greedy here.
So you went for a food. You turn your food into a dude rather than go for the balance.
I think I want my opponent to deploy another creature to get him, to bait out the Vengevine that I'm expecting.
Yeah, okay.
And then 3-for-1 them. I mean, 3-for-1ing with balance can be awkward because I'm drawing cards every time. So
and I'll be balancing.
Hand. So I'm
you got two lands. Like, yeah, I'll be going that balance. Here we go. Brutal.
Yeah, well, they've got to sacrifice 2 lands, don't they? And I've just got to discard 1.
So you discard your demon. Yeah, then you can dig through time. Yeah, you're looking good. Yeah, so see how like the importance of like your balance, and then you cast dig through time to then get ahead, so you go in and out, right?
Yeah, that's right.
That's when it's at its best.
When your last card is recall,
yeah,
or actually, Random 6 is a great example. It's a cheap thing that generates value and is good in a slow board state. You got to be careful with Moto balance. It asks you which ones do you want to keep, and sometimes you instinctively be like, "Oh yeah, I want to discard this card."
Pitch these two, yeah.
It's so awkward. So you got to be careful. I've been burnt by Moto a lot of times.
Yeah,
it's a different game, to be honest. Here?
Oh, you're so far ahead now. I reckon.
I feel really good. Like I've got Leyline as well.
Yeah,
I've got Leyline,
Bizarre.
Oko. I've got Leyline, Oko, Rav Trap in my hand, Oath, and Dig Through Time. I mean, it's pretty good.
And you've got a board full of Moxes, so you can start turning hasty 3/3s at them as well. So Root Waller.
They can
feels a little anemic now.
It's a 2-turn clock.
Yeah. So you can you just turn a Mox into a 3/3 and just block it.
Yeah, that's right. These decks often can get Riftstone Portal. He can't do it now because of the ley line, but Riftstone Portal is really quite good at
turns it Bizarre.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna dig. We're gonna keep balance. Yeah, it's good. All right, what do we got? So we got Ancestral Recall, Island of the Void, Earth of Druids, Pithing Needle, Regrowth, Tropical Island, and Vampiric Tutor. Imagine we'd take an Ancestral. I'd take a Pithing Needle to hit Bizarre, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, the Leyline sort of deals with the Bizarre, but I guess they can still Root Waller even with the Leyline out.
Yeah. I mean, it's with, you probably get Oath. I mean, Oko maybe gets you there, but they will still keep casting creatures. So yeah, Ancestral and Regrowth. And just Regrowth the Ancestral. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And also how many cards have got? 3? You probably don't want to balance again. So you cast your Oath. You had Oath in hand, so that makes sense. So you get your blocker. You cast Ancestral or Oath is back up. It's interesting, Oath kind of wants, there's an incentive to keep you at parity. You want to be at parity, but have a bigger life total. So when you're on a low life total, it puts you in a slightly awkward position. Rather than flood the board. If they've got hasty guys, it makes your decision making a little hard.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming they can't bench find anymore, and all they can really do is put Root Wallers and maybe a hollow one into play. But if they put a hollow one into play, it's at the cost of quite a lot of cards in their hand because they've got to discard one to the Bizarre and discard one to the hollow one. So it costs them 2 cards to hollow one. And I feel like Oko will. Yeah. Oko making a 3/3 turn will beat that.
Yeah, I think that's right. You just sort of sit there. Don't cast your Oath. Just build out your 3/3s and eventually just start. When you sort of own the board, you start attacking.
But maybe I just play Oath there. I'm not sure. Oh, you got to be careful with Oath though, because it can trigger them, and you can get in that awkward situation where they swing. Well, this is lethal though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Look at that. So I would have lost in the game anyway.
Oh, so you're on to game 3.
I mean, it's a flash 3/3. I guess.
Hang on a second. He had the mana to pump it. Yeah, he did.
Yeah, it's a flash 3/3.
What happened there?
It's crazy. You got to manage your life total.
You do. Okay, so we've got to worry about getting to 3 because of the Basking Root Rollers.
They're flash 3/3s. They're good.
Yeah, they're good. I like Basking Root Roller.
It's got a cute card. Yeah, I love it.
It's cool. Yeah, it looks good when you draw it as well.
That was fascinating. So I think Chantal out because pretty risky with Hogak.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. That makes sense.
I put some Okos in, and I don't really need a misstep. So Echoes are back in, and is that?
Don't take Ancestral Recall out. What are you doing?
No.
Don't do it. Oh, no.
I didn't see that at
That's
the time.
a nightmare.
This is a good
That's
hand.
funny. Yeah, okay. Well,
At
we
least it's not
learned
so
earlier. Oh, I mean, you just like turn one oath. Like you got Leyline, and you go Forbidden Orchard, Mox, Oath, go.
The hand gets brutalized by a Force of Vigor.
Yeah.
Which can happen. I mean, to be fair, I think it's still
You
correct.
can vamp for Ancestral. But if you're going to vamp for Ancestral, you'd be stuffed. if they wrecked you, you have to vamp for your misstep.
I did not realise that at the time of playing. That's fascinating. I think I was trying to take out Misstep because I think they might run Shaman, but not, most of them don't.
Here we go again. Deafening Silence. Wow. So the Imperial Seal is an interesting one.
Imperial Seal gets ported out a lot. It's it and Show and Tell are probably, the two sort of worst cards, but the deck wants to be hardcore, find Oath, find it early, play it early, and it just does that really well. And I'm happy to sacrifice card advantage because I found I was never able to beat control decks anyway, so there was no point in me trying to compete on a card advantage battle. Sometimes you get lucky and you hit a cruise and an A-call, but for the most part, I just don't want to be trying to find a card advantage. I'm happy. I'd rather be quick and I'd rather be recursive, as in be able to play like a backup Oath immediately after they've forced it. So the seal.
I mean, you really do it. Your deck's doing its thing here, I've got to say.
Yeah, so we're not really talking about it, but it's just through the motions, isn't it?
Yeah. So this feels more like Vintage, where someone just like goes off and the game's over. So you're going to find Regrowth, play Time Walk again. You got your 4 mana?
Yeah, I've got 4 mana. And Memory's Journey's in the bin, so it's always a good sign when the Journey's in the bin.
I like that, you can use it both offensively and defensively. It's cool. Regrowth, we'll find Time Walk.
It can be a little scary when you're so far ahead.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Clarion means I can't cast it again. Not Clarion. I keep saying Clarion because I've played a lot with Deafening Clarion Standard, Deafening Silence.
Deafening Silence.
But I think they're pretty done now.
Yeah. So you cast Regrowth, so you can't Time Walk again. So they do get done.
But I'll be able to get it next turn. No, I was going to say you can get a bit scary when you RuneScar Demon and you're so far ahead, but you don't have any cards left in your deck, and you go, well, Journey gets me back, but if I counter the Journey, I just lose this game. Do I really need to find the last one? Well, that was
conceded there. Yeah,
that was pretty convincing. Game 3.
Yeah, that second game was really really interesting. Like the interaction between the hate pieces and watching your opponent sort of play through your ley lines. It was good.
Absolutely. Well, that was a pretty good first crack, and thanks heaps for watching. We'll come back with match 2.
Cool. Thanks.